Hello everyone. It's James again. And today I wanted to make a very important video. And talk about a very important topic. And this is the narcissist can't stand when you speak up and tell the truth. And likely this has been your character your entire life. Standing up for what is right, that is why you were marked to be the scapegoat of your family. You see, the narcissist parent will see who the truth tellers are amongst their children. And once they find out who they are, even at such an early age for this child of theirs, they will mark this child to be a troublemaker. And they will smear their name and turn everyone they can against them. Doing this all throughout their child's life. And why are they doing this? Because if they deem you a threat to their warped worldview, and a threat to them getting as much narcissistic supply as they want to get out of people, you being one of them, they will do whatever they can to make sure no one believes a word you have to say. And they will also make sure you will no longer have access to certain people to have the opportunity to speak the truth to them. Well, this woman on the screen behind me, Miss Sarah Williams, who worked for Meta, basically Facebook, for years, and is now a whistleblower. And what is she blowing the whistle on? According to Sarah, that Meta allegedly engaged in working hand in hand with China, as a part to secure their services in gaining a part of the Chinese market, and in doing so, developing custom tools to censor its users. And I will put links of her testimony in the description box below. Look, there are those that know me here on this channel and have been a part of this channel since the beginning. And some of you that are new. And every now and again, when I mention being shadow banned, I've had some people very nicely comment that I believe are new. Ask, how come you are being shadow banned? As they find my work helpful and that there's nothing wrong with what I'm saying. And that would be accurate. There is nothing wrong with what is being said here and on other channels that speak about narcissism, that really get into the deeper matter of what narcissistic abuse is all about. You see. And those of you that have been around for a long time here on this channel will remember, I would upload a video and I would get like 2,500 views within the first few hours. Most videos would either get that many views, or 7,000, or 10,000. And then I have some videos that did super well. Several of them actually that have reached up into the hundreds of thousands of views. Now that might not seem like much by today's standards regarding this platform. But back then, it shows that when people were looking up narcissism, narcissistic abuse, emotional abuse, and all of these types of terms people wanted to learn and know more about. Because likely they felt they were being mistreated in some way. They would likely come across my videos and a few of us originals in this space first. So some of our videos would just take off and get hundreds of thousands of views. I know I have some videos that have 400,000 views. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I would have to go back and look again. But I believe I have some around the 700,000 view mark. I was gaining hundreds, and I do mean hundreds, of new subscribers every single day. Meaning my channel and a few others in this space were growing and growing fast. And many of us could actually see the light at the end of the tunnel. That more than likely, we might be able to do this in pretty short order. Full time. And the truth is, most of us that are the originals that are in this space, aren't here just for the money. Because right now, there is no money. And there hasn't been for a great many years. But you have to understand something. When you can financially do something like this full time, it allows you to make more content. Content that might reach someone out there in the world that may really need it. Well, one day several years back, when this channel and many others like this one were on the upswing, I made a video comparing the narcissist's tactics of brainwashing and securing narcissistic supply to being similar to what is used by those that want to rule by communism. And the very next day my channel went haywire. And others that were talking about sensitive subjects as well were experiencing the same thing. And then it seemed things kinda sorta got fixed. But my earnings were cut in about half and so were my views. And then a lot of us lost our monetization. And you wonderful people here on this channel wrote into the powers that be speaking up for me and this channel. And I will tell you, I really appreciate you all for doing that. I really do mean that. I mean you were really taking this seriously as it was a serious matter. And after a couple of months of this back and forth with this platform, they gave me my monetization back. But what they did was most likely, or allegedly, they most likely hit a button to really shadow ban me. So my channel can barely make any earnings at all. And the reason why I believe they do this is because they hope to frustrate the person they are doing this to. So they just figure it's not worth it. And they just quit. You see, when you look at communism, it's not something that is implemented overnight. However, it's implemented in stages. Just like narcissistic abuse. Even if you take someone that grew up in a home with narcissistic abuse, and you had them go on a date with someone they were interested in, and on the date, the person cursed at them, threw water in their face, and they told them how they plan to use them for all of their money and stress them out so bad they get sick. If this all were to have happened on day one of meeting such a person, even someone that has been conditioned through their childhood and their parents to accept mistreatment, would likely walk away from such a situation and have nothing to do with such a person. And the narcissist knows this fact. This is why they implement their abuse and brainwashing over a period of time. And they use every trick in the book to get their prey or the person they want to mistreat to drop their guard and accept this mistreatment. And there is stage after stage of this brainwashing they will put their target through. That will, in the narcissist's mind, will lead them to their end goal. And that is complete control over you. Well, communism works in a similar manner. Those that want it know. They just can't say, here's communism. Everyone is going to live under it and just deal with it. But what they do is use the same type of tactics that the narcissist used in your very life to isolate you. And to get you to accept their mistreatment as your new reality and for you to look upon it as somehow being normal. I've talked about Aaron Pizzi several times on this channel. And I will continue to do so. Now, why is Aaron Pizzi important to this discussion or topic? Well, Aaron Pizzi is a British woman that was raised in her early life in communist China. So she knows what communism looks like. Well, when she was back in England as an adult, she joined in the feminist movement of that time period. So much so, she created the very first battered women's shelter. And as I've stated before, during her work at the shelter, she realized that the women by and large were just as dysfunctional and just as prone to hitting people, let's just say, as the men they were dealing with. Aaron admitted there were times when there were men that were true victims. And times where the women were true victims. Meaning, they accidentally found themselves upside down in an abusive relationship, desperate to get out. But in a great many cases, Aaron found that both parties had a lot of problems and were mistreating one another equally. So she set out to help find out why and help turn some of these people's lives around by getting them to understand, both men and women, where their anger and inability to have healthy relationships come from. Also, they can one day have a healthy relationship, if not with one another, but in the future with someone else. And when you hear this, it sounds good, right? I mean, she's just trying to help people. What could be the problem? Well, the feminist organization she belonged to tried to delete her and threatened her life at every turn, it seems. So much so, she had to run for her life to another country altogether. And only was able to come back to England many years later once the dust had settled. Now, why is this story important? Well, Aaron stated that she would hear the same talking points used by these women at their feminist meetings that mimicked what she heard growing up in communist China. You see, in order to have such a controlled society, You have to have the breakdown of the family structure. And Aaron still has the paperwork from this group where they state. One of their goals was to make it so the family unit would be just a mother and children and where it would have no place for a man. And as Aaron would say, follow the money. These women were highly organized. And highly funded by multi-millionaires and billionaires with deep pockets. But when she asked for funding to help men that were abused, she was flat out refused. But what did this funding produce most likely? Hardcore feminists writing articles for magazines and newspapers. And for television shows and movies. Making sure that their agenda would take a deep root in society. You see, if you have such people that no longer have to go to their normal day job at, let's say, the factory or maybe a regular office job, but now they can just sit at home and write content spreading their ideals and propaganda. And those that dare to speak up, even back then, were silenced. It's not hard to understand why we are the way we are today. It appears there was a purposeful campaign to ruin the family unit. And now you have both men and women unable to have normal relationships with one another. For fear their lives could be ruined as a result of just having a simple innocent relationship. And again, this started just like narcissistic abuse starts. It starts with what appears to be something innocent and even helpful. And the more trust is given, the more control they get. And the more they are able to write the script on how things are supposed to go. We can see the effort to remove God from society. The effort to push men and women apart from one another. Most people no longer own their own home. Unlike a great many that did own a home in years past. The men have been emasculated and the women have been made to be more dominant and masculine. And selling their goods on only fools has become a new norm for a great many women. All while the puppet masters push hyper-materialism. You would think, when those on the news are talking about all of the financial crises we are facing, they would talk about why it's important to find a good partner. Even if you both don't have a lot of money. And the reason why is, you can both help one another during this difficult season. But instead they get in front of the camera and talk in a way that makes it sound like they are completely clueless as to why people are no longer having relationships anymore. When they likely know exactly why. But they aren't being paid to tell the truth. They are likely being paid to read a script and spread a narrative. Because if they aren't acting clueless, they will often side with the emasculation of men and the hyper-materialism of society. Listen to some of these people. They will say, oh yes, I agree, men aren't doing their jobs at all as men in regards to providing for women. Completely leaving out the fact most men can't perform such a task if they were to work 5 jobs. They paint men and women with a broad brush to fit their narrative and they plant the seeds of doubt in the viewer's mind about how accomplished they are in their life. Because going back to the narcissist. What does the narcissist do? Especially a narcissist parent or parents. They divide up their kids and triangulate them so bad. They are unable to help one another escape their narcissistic abuse. And narcissist parents do this purposefully. They know exactly what they are doing and why they are doing it. Because if your narcissist parent or parents were just mean and nasty people. No manipulation. No covert behavior. But they were just straightforward a bad person. The chances the kids in such a household would put their money together and escape and never look back would be extremely high. Well, the narcissist parent or parents ahead of time know this fact. So they on purpose manipulate and pit their children against one another. And figure out ways to trap them financially, emotionally, psychologically. You name it. So they will have a hard time getting away from the narcissist parent or parents. Well, why do you think? Nearly every time. These talking heads on these news shows talk about men and women relationships. No matter how fair they are acting like they are. The narrative 9 times out of 10 circles back around to why it's good women are single. And why men aren't doing enough. And as you all know here on this channel, I believe that men and women can be narcissists at the same rate. And all you have to do is watch the news. And you will see both men and women doing the same evil to one another. But the narrative of men bad women good is pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And no one is thinking that possibly, this could be a communist dream come true. I'm just saying. But what do I know? I'm just a cartoon. You have God removed in almost all areas of society. People are struggling financially. Most people don't own their own homes anymore. And they are working jobs they can't stand but they can't walk away from. And they have no family or anyone to help them if they need help. Because most people are alone. And all of this just seemed to happen by accident. You see, the narcissist likes to make everything look like it just happened. But those of us that know the narcissist, things don't just happen by accident with these people. They engineer majority of the bad life events that happen to those around them. I mean, think about it. How easy would it be for these talking heads to say, "We are in tough economic waters. Maybe this trying to find a 1% man for the women out there is out of control. And instead find a man that is thoughtful, kind, God-fearing, most importantly, hard-working, and has values." And telling the women, look, if you are wanting to find a man that can support the house completely and forever, and he will never get sick, and he will never have a bad patch in his life, is a pipe dream and wishful thinking. And also mention what it talks about in the Bible, how a woman should be good with her hands and producing as well to keep the household afloat. The Bible talks about the men tending to their flock of sheep and other animals, and women weaving garments and selling them in the market. They both had roles and they both were working. Now the truth is, when we can have things where one can work and the other can just take care of the kids, this is more than ideal. But you have to ask yourself, who engineered this new reality and took that way of life away? Who? Remember, narcissistic abuse happens in steps. And communism happens in steps. First you push the mothers out in the workforce. You have strangers now raising the children and putting in them their ideals and morals. Not the parents. Things become more expensive, to where both men and women are now trapped into working because neither one can afford to quit. Now most people can't afford houses. So home ownership is gone. I want you to think about something important. What if you lived in a house that was fully paid for? And you went to work. And your narcissist boss was mistreating you. That's right. You would likely quit. You see, in years past, people had choices. And they had help. If your job was terrible, you could quit your job at 8 a.m. and have another job by 12 noon. And there was no fear of not being able to make it, because there were usually other incomes in the household, from uncles and aunts and grandpa and grandma. It's kind of hard to control someone when they can just walk away from you and not deal with you at all. But what narcissistic abuse does is it puts you in a situation where you have to deal with the narcissistic abusers. Meaning you have to go to your horrible job every day and just endure abuse, one day after the next, simply because you can't walk away. And that appears to be the new business model for most companies. Narcissistic abuse, gaslighting, manipulation, and even making you doubt whether you're actually a good employee or not. And that puts you on the hamster wheel of trying and trying and trying. And they keep you on this hamster wheel. That is until they are done with you and they discard you. Just like the narcissist in your life will do, and they fire you. All that stress and strain and worry for nothing. But do you think most companies could implement such a business model if they knew most people owned their own homes and they were financially sound? Or they came from a financially sound family? Because even the narcissist will act nice when they need something from you. And if such companies needed your work, and they know you don't have to be there and can leave at any time, the business model of emotional abuse would likely change to a work environment where you felt valued and respected. Look, when I talked about this stuff years ago, and others that did the same, we found the growth of our channels stopped. Most times when I upload a video, the second I click the upload button, before anyone has a chance to even watch the video, I usually lose a few subscribers. As if it's the system on this platform removing subscribers in an automated way. And then I get a few subscribers back from new people. Or old people figuring out they were unsubscribed so they subscribe back. And all of this does what? It keeps people from hearing what I have to say. And not just me, but others that are in this same space. I've seen a few women that make narcissistic abuse content. But they only talk about female narcissists and they try to warn men against them. Now, though I might not agree with all of the things they believe in, most of their content is great and very valuable. But when I accidentally stumble upon their work again after a long period of time, their subscriber count is right where it was a few years ago. But then you find a lot of people in the narcissistic abuse space that have these really big channels. Not all, but a lot of them. They toe the line of men are the problem and women are the victims. They refer to the narcissist as him. And though even still they make good work and you can tell they know what makes a narcissist tick. They talk in such a way that feeds these platforms what they want, the narrative it appears to be pushing. So when shadow banning happens, when someone searches for such terms like narcissism, instead of the channels that speak on a deeper level on narcissism, and sensitive topics that make you think, you are redirected most likely to the content that such platforms deem to be what they find to be appropriate for you to view. What Sarah, the woman that is behind me, is speaking about isn't new to most online platforms. There have been talks regarding certain platforms for years wanting to get into the Chinese market and develop search engines and video sharing platforms for them, but with built-in ways to censor the users and give people the information that they deem appropriate for them to have. And in doing so, it's been said these censorship tools have been allegedly used on those in the US and other Western countries. So if communism isn't being pushed, why does it look like and feel like it is? And why censor a little nobody that compares it to the tactics of the narcissist? Well, if you want to push something most people won't on their own go along with, you have to silence those that will oppose such a narrative. And you will have to trick people through narcissistic covert means to follow such an agenda or narrative. Well, all I can say is, take a look around you. That's all I have for today. And I do hope your day is blessed. And until next time, bye for now. And be good to yourself.